I've interviewed Graham. I've interviewed like so many people.
The last person I want to watch is that guy.
Oh, that's fighting talk.
Welcome to it. This is Fighting Talk with myself, Tshuck, and today I have a special guest, the president of the EFC, Cairo Howarth. You literally the president of the EFC. Obviously, like dating back since the beginning of the EFC. And when I had Graham on, he was telling me in terms of like you were actually in production, video production there. Yeah, so tell me in terms of like how that came about from being in video production to envisioning the EFC.
So we started off, we had a television production and advertising agency, myself and my brother. So we were producing television commercials, producing television content. And then this was that was started in the year 2000. Then in 2006, 2007, with my other brother, we also launched an events company. So we're doing...
Was this Calvin?
With Calvin,
Shout out Calvin, yeah.
So then there was the two of us. So, and at the same time, myself and Calvin, prior to that, were training different martial arts, since we're kids, like the usual stuff, like most people do karate and judo and whatever, a whole bunch of different things. And then got into Muay Thai, really enjoyed Muay Thai, then got into MMA when that was kind of starting and really fans of it and enjoy the training. So we kind of landed up in what we think is a fairly unique position where we were training the sport, watching the sport, fans of the sport, but we also owned a TV production company and a marketing agency, and we owned an events company, and we're watching how big the sport was getting overseas, and it wasn't, we kind of just basically saw an opportunity to do it professionally here.
Sure.
Prior to that, people weren't doing it on a bigger scale, television scale. They're doing events, but it wasn't produced for television.
Yeah.
And we thought that with our resources and our skills, that's what we're good at, we could come to the party and do something a bit unique from an African MMA point of view, and hence EFC was launched.
Dang. Like, I mean, amongst like you guys, like who was the main pioneering person in terms of like coming up with the idea of the EFC?
Kelvin says it was him.
It's still a debate of us. Yeah.
I know Kelvin and I discussed it a lot. We were often talking about it and going to the other MMA events that were happening and talking about it at the gym, and because we were more in it. Silas, older brother, wasn't training it, so he didn't have that interest on it at all. But certainly one day, we spoke about it so much, and one day Silas walked into my office and Calvin and I were debating it and looking at stuff online or whatever, and he said something along the lines of, you guys we're either going to do this or you're going to stop talking about it. I don't want to hear a thing. So you either book a venue and we do this thing, or I don't want to hear one more thing about doing an MMA promotion again. And he slammed the door and walked off. So then we got on the phone to the Coca-Cola Dome at the time, and then we booked a show.
Dang. And that was literally the first one there.
Yeah.
So like in terms of like now with that being said, like what was like the first challenge that you faced? Obviously, like now you're venturing off and starting this business, or like this passion project at the time. So what was the challenges in terms of then, getting it off the ground essentially?
Sure. Now I know why you wanted more than 20 minutes to do this interview. Because this is the long list. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Any new business, there's a lot to do. But this was unique for us. We'd never been involved in a sports organization before. We've done events, we've done TV, but sports is obviously different. It's got its own stuff. Then it's a sport that wasn't really being done professionally here before, so we had to, the everything from the referees and the associations and all of that side of it needed a lot of work. Then there was convincing the athletes that these kids who are youngsters in our 20s who had never been done of the show before, they must come and fight for us, and we're going to do a good show, and so it was getting the buy-in from the MMA community, everything from the judges and referees, sanctioning bodies through to the athletes and the gyms. That took a lot of work, so to speak. And at the same time, the TV networks, the venues, and then obviously corporates came. Corporates weren't even in that beginning part. That was coming later. The first thing we had to actually show the product and try to get the product out there before you could try sell kind of sponsorships or anything like that, any kind of partnerships. So that again took a lot of work, and I don't think we quite realized how long that would take. When I say how long it would take, how long the uptake would be from
to get that running
to
there.
commercialize it. We certainly didn't realize how much money we would lose in the beginning. We lost a lot more money for a lot longer than we thought.
But I mean, like, still, MMA is still young, man. I mean, the UFC was celebrating 30 years just recently in terms of like with them, and like you can imagine in terms of with us.
For us, it was fresh.
Yeah.
So no one here knew what MMA was. I say
Yeah.
no one. Obviously, the gym is a small
It's a
community.
niche,
did.
yeah, it's a niche sport.
But the average person had that term MMA did not like exist.
Yeah.
It was still cage fighting, if anything, and even
Yeah.
that was this this
Looked down
circus
upon.
thing.
Yeah,
Completely
yeah.
a blood sport circus, like act whatever, no rules fighting, locked in the cage to death. That was the perception,
Yeah.
So it was a completely different to the landscape today. We're talking 15 years ago. Where now there's the Conor McGregor's and there's a Dricus du Plessis,
yeah,
which has
yes.
changed. All of those changed it as we've gone along, and we've just seen it get, I say, easier and easier every year as the sport has become more mainstream. But if you go back 15, 16 years ago, it was
Wasn't
nothing.
like this, no.
I mean, I phoned someone up, hey, we're talking about MMA, mixed martial arts. I wouldn't try MMA because that was mixed martial arts. What's that?
Yeah.
And explain and try to request a meeting. No, I don't want to meet about. Why would you want to meet me about that? Why would we want to meet with you about that? I'm like, it was literally like that compared to today, where people are brands are phoning us, and
More
companies
familiar,
are phoning-
with-
completely different landscape. But yeah, even globally, it was still at that time. It was still very fresh. This is prior to the Ronda Rouseys, the Conor McGregor's. It was still very niche, even though the UFC was big,
It was blowing up.
and making money and doing their thing globally. From a sport point of view, it was still
Yeah.
actually very small.
Yeah, man. Like for now, for the company to be producing like these type of fighters that are actually able to compete, like with the internationals, I guess. I'm sure like that's also like something that you still pinch yourself upon, in terms of like having a champion from the EFC and then actually going and defending and winning actually a belt in the UFC. A business model that you guys are modeling after, like it should be like one of those where it's like it feels surreal. I'm sure.
It's completely crazy.
Yeah.
Completely crazy. Literally being, when we went over to Toronto to watch Dricus fight for the title the first time, mind blowing. Then we watched him in Perth now again fighting Izzy. I'm
Sure.
like, one of my favorite
Finishing him.
favorite athletes of all time.
Yeah.
When Dricus walked in the octagon and faced off
Springboks.
against him, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's really happening.
Dricus, one of our boys, is facing off with Izzy for
yeah.
defending his title, and just being there, just seeing du Plessis versus Adesanya, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my
Posters,
goodness,
it's
like
crazy,
all of that is just so wild for. It's wild. And then I was
I
literally
can imagine.
I was with Dricus on Saturday night, and we were talking about it in depth, and with both of us, it's still, like you say, not a dream, but like it's just. Yeah, this is something we've all dreamt about for 15 years. If you said to us, what's going to be the ultimate outcome for this? It's our athletes are going to go on to the UFC. Then they're going to win in the UFC. Then they're going to champion. And then they're going to be the biggest names in the sport. I mean, Dricus on the UFC roster, there's not many athletes with the same name recognition that Dricus has today that are competing. I mean, the guy's one of the biggest stars in the sport, in the world, and it's just it's absolutely
and you'll
fantastic.
forever be obviously tied down to like with his come up with the EFC, but tell me in terms of like now what that does in terms of like, is there more of athletes knocking in the door of the EFC and trying to like come through?
For sure.
But tell me in terms of like now what that type of moment does for the business.
So it does so much. It's our Conor McGregor moment, like the UFC had it with what Conor did
the
for
star
them.
blows it up.
We've seen that here 100%. So just brands wanting to get involved in the sport, where 2 years ago it was still they're like in reality we got to be real about what we do. In South Africa specifically, we've got world champion rugby team and cricket team and good swimmers and we've got really some strong sports. Football, soccer's big here, and then MMA, EFC, and MMA was seen as like a tier down to that. But Dricus has changed that completely. Now MMA is exactly the same level as Dricus is Siya Khaleesi is whatever. They're the same level of athlete,
Star
same
level
level of
even.
respect, same level of star, and that suddenly put MMA, EFC on par with all those traditional
sporting
big
colleagues,
sports in South Africa. And what that does from a brand association point of view, whereas previously a brand like Makuru or we've got a lot of big brands on our part of EFC, they might not have, they didn't. They weren't part of UFC prior to this, but now they see it as, this is the brand that they
Something
want, that they're happy to associate with. It's no longer this fringe small thing on the side, we always had big brand recognition across Africa, funny enough, almost more so than we had here in South Africa, because places like the DRC, they don't have a world champion rugby team or cricket team, or their winning athletes, their top stars were EFC fighters going into the UFC. Those guys were their Springboks, if I want to call it that. So in other markets we were actually getting really good traction, and EFC was perceived EFC and MMA was perceived as a higher level sport than in South Africa. But now Drickus has certainly changed that, and he's now put MMA as credible, the biggest sport that most
you can
watched,
actually go into,
all of that type of stuff, and one that brands want to be a part of.
Yeah, like I feel like even that story of him wanting to be a Springbok, and obviously now that didn't work out, and then diverting, because also you hear that story with Gareth, Soldier Boy. He also was playing professional rugby, thought he would be in the Springboks, and then took the fighting route. But yeah, tell me in terms of now, the biggest challenge that I've seen to date for me is what COVID did to the company, halting sports across the world, and then now you can't put on fights as you used to, So tell me in terms of how you guys navigated throughout that.
We had a 14-month holiday. No, I'm kidding. It was obviously
some time off.
No, it was terrible. That was obviously the worst part of our 15-year history. It was horrendous. We couldn't do anything. We weren't allowed to make money effectively. We couldn't operate. And there's really nothing we could do about it. Not for lack of trying. Was writing legal letters to the government and blah blah blah. Trying. I mean, looking back, all of that was completely in vain. Am I sorry we did it? Well, I had the time and might as well give it our best shot. So we gave it our best shot. It got zero result, but we tried our best. But the one thing that was interesting with COVID, which I'll say came out as a positive, was it made us focus a lot more on our digital. So prior to COVID, we were very television focused, and mostly because of our background, and that was our background, so that's what we did. But in COVID, we obviously weren't doing the live shows, so we weren't producing all of this television content, and we had an archive of our old library, so we just started repackaging that for our digital platforms, and got tremendous traction from it. So whereas prior our Facebook page was very small and didn't kind of get the traction that we should have got, because we didn't get the attention that we didn't give it any attention properly. Whereas now in COVID time we focused on that type of stuff and creating content for the digital platform, social media stuff, and did really, really well. So it increased our digital audience and engagement, not even times 1,000, times 1,000,000 or more. And now we're sitting on 3.5 million fans and followers on our Facebook page, which is all organic. We post videos of these fights, and they get, some of them tens of millions of views, some of them hundreds of millions of views. It's really, really awesome. And that we never had prior to COVID. So we still have our same huge television reach, which we had spent 12, 13 years building up, but now we've added the digital reach to that as well, which really helps when talking to brands. So we're kind of winning in lots of ways there. We're getting brands that are now coming to us, and not even us going to them, they're coming to us because of where the sport's positioned at the moment. And then when they look at us and they look at what we offer, to get their brand out there or their messaging out there, we've got a comprehensive and extensive television platform, plus we've got an unparalleled and engaged audience on digital. So there's no other African sport or entertainment property that's got the digital presence that EFC's got. If you look at the engagement on our videos on Facebook and YouTube, it does really well. So now a brand can, Nox Hydration or any of the brands that we're working with will come to us and they get part of EFC, they're part of our live events, but then they're built into our television content, which airs on all these different TV networks around South Africa, Africa, and the world. And then they're built into our social media content as well, which goes out. Literally, we're getting over 1 billion minutes viewed on our Facebook page in a year. It's vast numbers. So the value is now so high. And with the perception change over the recent times, and certainly with Drickus helping it, now brands are going, cool, they want to be part of the sport, they're happy to be associated with it, and the value's there. Whereas previously we had good value, but the association perception was hard to get over for some of the brands, or sometimes a brand would, so that's kind of been the biggest change from that side. So COVID was good in that way, made us change our business into a more digital business, which has worked out. And also the other big change it made was we used to host our events at some international venues around South Africa. We used to tour once a month to a different casino-based arena, which was great. That's what we did for up until COVID came along. But coming out of COVID, we had got our own venue, set up our own studio, similar to what the UFC do with the Apex Center in Vegas. Sure. We have it, EFC was called the Performance Institute, now it's called the World Sport Betting Arena. And that's really helped us a lot as well from just a production point of view, quality point of view, costing point of view, ease, all of that type of stuff. So following the UFC model, a lot of people say, oh, when are you going back to a big arena? I'm like, well, come experience a live show at the World Sport Betting Arena, and if you want us to go back to the arena after, a big arena after that, we'll look at it. But all of our partners and from broadcasters to brands and even to fans that come here are so happy with the product that we're producing. And I mean, even if you look at the reality of the business model, the UFC, the biggest in this business, biggest in the world, they're producing 80% plus of their shows at their Apex venue, So it's like we're not doing anything different. We are looking at potentially, touring around a little bit, not doing what we were doing before, but branching out and doing some shows outside of this venue. But I think those would be the biggest, I'll say, positives that came out of COVID and changes. We were forced to look at a change. We made the change, and it's actually come out for the better in the end.
Yeah. I feel like also like the whole thing of, like, you see now you've touched on like traveling. I mean, I know that was also the plans that were announced in the beginning of the year in terms of like hosting events outside of South Africa, essentially, and traveling more intercontinental shows. So is that still like an avenue that you guys are looking at too? And like, what are the possibilities of that? Because I mean, you guys had said this year, but like we haven't seen anything,
It's coming. It's coming. Lots of factors, lots of things to do, lots of obviously a lot of elements that come into play in order to do stuff like that. But it is in the works. It is something that we will be doing, and it'll come.
So what, like, are we looking at possibly next year, like now? Yeah. I mean, with the year that's running out. But like, I mean, I don't have much time with you, man, but can you tell me in terms of like your top 5 fighters that you have witnessed and produced? But tell me who's been your favorite out of the 15 years that you guys have held business?
So that's a hard question. Certainly.
Just 5.
Hey?
5 fighters.
Just 5. I mean, ones that come to mind quickly, Soulja Boy was like, I think it was the first fight at EFC 1, he fought on there, and so he's gone through, I'll say, everything with us from right in the beginning all the way through to going to the UFC, through to coming back again, through to now he's training, he's got his own gym, so being one of the trainers, through to working with us on the commentary stuff, working on bigger deals with us. So like he's certainly he's given it his all to the sport, and we hope we've given as much back to him as well. So guys like that are absolutely incredible ambassadors for us and trailblazers for the sport, like 1,000%.
Sure.
Like they were the ones that set the foundation. What Drickus is getting today, comes on the back of guys like Soulja Boy, what they did from the beginning, which has been amazing. Obviously Drickus now is easy top of mind stuff. But like we've had so many great athletes over the years. Some of them, I wouldn't say a disappointment from where it's landed up. Some of them we had such high expectations for, and then didn't get the hey, this guy's going to be the first UFC champion to come out of EFC, and then that didn't happen, So, but obviously that's just life, and that's the way it goes. But it's been a really interesting journey for sure, and the difference just from us on a personal level doing this business, it's really interesting because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with athletes all the time, and it's their dreams and their ambitions and their drives and all of those type of things coming into play. We're not selling a product, a bottle of water or a can or something. we're almost selling people and their stories and what they're doing, and there's so many factors that come into play there, which is interesting. And even from the fan point of view, the customer effectively, you normally, when you're selling a product, you're selling to a customer, but in sports you're selling to a fan. Your customer's actually a fan, and it's very different. They treat you differently. They have something to say to you when we put this matchup up. They go, "Why did you do that? You should have given this guy or that girl or this or whatever." So you're dealing with a emotion in a different way to when you're normally selling a normal business that's selling a service or a product. Doesn't have that. If I go to a restaurant and I don't like the meal, I just don't go back there. Like whatever.
True.
Like whatever. Or if I buy something and I don't like it, I just don't buy it again. I don't recommend it to anyone. But in sport, if someone doesn't like what we're doing in EFC, they'll tell us about it. They'll arrive. I mean, one guy arrived here at the weigh-in today, and he starts, I'm not happy with. I'm a huge fan. You must do with the marketing. You must do with the story. And he starts blah 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 blah, going off at me. And I'm like, okay, bro, cool. Can I catch your number? I want to meet up with you and give you some ideas, all for free. I'm like, okay, So I'm literally getting a dude who buys our tickets from us and coming here to tell me what we've got to make it better. He's not like, instead of just not buying our ticket and just walking away, like whatever. If I don't dig something, I just want to buy it again. No, he's like, I bought the tickets again. I bought the VIP ticket, 2,000 rand ticket, and I'm coming in. I'm telling you, I want to see more of this and of that. I'm like, oh, yeah, sweet, awesome.
I want to see a DJ. Honestly,
I dig the passion and the energy. Like, awesome. So that's kind of where our customers are fans, and it's different. When you run a sports organization, it's not like running most other businesses from the athlete side and then the fan side. And it's been really interesting. What's cool about it is the people we've met over these 15 years have been awesome. Like from an athletes to the trainers to everyone involved in the sport, from the production team through to our partners that come. It's been a really cool journey.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed you didn't mention the media. But anyway. But
obviously the media.
But anyway, so just to wrap it up, in terms of now obviously with the growth comes things like competition, in the space that you're in. So with that, I mean, we had a former fighter in the name of Cameron Simon fighting for the organization and has his own promotion in Versus. So what are the plans in terms of are you guys afraid of any competition? Are you welcoming that? Or are you probably looking at co-promoting? Is that things that you guys would be?
So I mean, people might call some things competition. I see what Cam's doing as adding value to what we do.
To grow the sport.
He's putting on amateur bouts. We only do professional bouts.
Okay.
We need, in order to become professional, you need to have an amateur fights and build up. So
build the resume.
Without an amateur promotion, we don't get new athletes. So we need more. I wish there was 5 of those around, and more people were coming up, and he's even putting on some pro fights. Awesome. Great. That means we don't have to take someone who's 0-0. We can take someone who's 2-0, 3-0. Awesome. Get more experience. At the moment, we've been the only pro show in town. We have to take people who are 0-0 because there's nowhere else for them to fight professionally. So, I mean, I'd love to be signing people who are 5-0 as a pro. Awesome. Even better if that's available to get there.
Yeah.
So as long as people are doing the job well and putting on a good product and increasing the quality of the sport and how the sport's seen here, then it's not bad for us. It's only good for us. People talk about, the UFC is going to come here, and aren't we petrified of it? It's going to be our business is going to shut down. Well, how do you stop the UFC coming here? I said, are you joking? We've been begging the UFC to come here for 15 years. Well, we first met with them in 2013. And we said, please come here. And they first said, we're going to come here and we're going to set up an office here. And, we're going to come and do a show here. I said, guys, that'll be the best thing for our business if you come and do a show here. And I give this example a lot. It's like when the Soccer World Cup came to South Africa.
Sure.
Prior to that, I had never watched a soccer game in my life. I had no interest in soccer. I'd never been to a stadium. I'd never done anything, whatever. Now, Soccer World Cup comes here. There's me in my Bafana t-shirt. I've got a vuvuzela. I'm at this FNB stadium. I'm watching games. Awesome. After that, Soccer World Cup leaves. I'm now much more interested in football. I now follow it. I know some of the players. I'm interested in what Bafana is doing. So it just increased the scope. Same thing will happen when UFC comes here. It's going to take a whole bunch of people who had never watched the sport before. They're suddenly going to be watching it. A whole bunch of media who never covered the sport are now all going to be caught up in it. A whole bunch of brands that have never thought about sponsoring the sport want to get involved. Oh, they can't write the $10 million UFC check. Hey, we're over here afterwards. And then they're going to leave the next day, and all these new fans, media, corporates, everyone wants to be involved in the sport. and the EFC's here.
Yeah, true.
Awesome.
True. And always been there.
So, you know, and we're like, hey guys, and then they get involved with us. So
Yeah.
literally our business will triple in value when a UFC event
Okay.
takes place in this place. So we don't see it as competition. What's negative is when people do a show badly.
Okay.
That's not good for us, because then someone gets hurt and they don't get good hospital care, and there's
Then
a
it's a
problem.
reflection on
Or
everyone
they
else.
do a show pretending to be, you know, people think we're all one company. They're doing sponsor. The amount of times we've got a message from someone saying, "Oh, I sponsor EFC and I want tickets." And I'm like, "You don't sponsor. I've never heard of you before." No, yeah. And they send me a picture from some show that says, you know, they sell it as they're part of us, and they get money, and they let them down, and then that brand never wants to work with us or the sport again. They get burnt. Basically, they burn stuff, and that's happened multiple times over the years, and that's bad for us and the sport as a whole. If someone's doing a good job, it's good for us. It's really good for us, because we're still the premium product. And if you look at it from an athlete point of view, if we're putting on the best product and we're the best place for an athlete to fight from, an African athlete, and they want to get to the UFC, which we believe we are, and then they'll come to us. And if someone puts on a better show than us tomorrow, and that's the best way to get to the UFC, then they're going to go there.
Yeah.
So then we must up our game or go find something else to do with our
Makes
lives,
sense.
you know? So
Makes
it's
sense.
like, so as long as we're doing what we believe is best and we put in the best product, and then, you know,
And pioneering the movement.
it is what it is. If someone does a better job to us tomorrow, then we must do better, or we must do something else, you know?
Yeah. Damn, I really wish I had more time with you, man, Cairo. But yeah, I guess the last one, like now you spoke about football. What's your team that you favor in
Sorry,
either
say that again.
your
What's the
football-
team?
Yeah, your favorite football
Well,
team.
so in Premier League, I have 3 boys now, and they woke up one day and I don't know, they like Liverpool somehow. I don't know how it happened, but they're Liverpool fans, so now I'm a Liverpool fan by default, because now that's the only team I know. I know all the players, I know everything. I'm watching their games. I don't watch the other games. So, and then they also really dig Real Madrid. So yeah, so those are the 2 teams that we'll follow. If you want to call me a football fan, yeah.
Nah, I mean, you do have a bit of Zinedine Zidane in you, like, you know, in terms of.
So literally last week Saturday, my kids played their football. I want to say tournament, 2 matches on the Saturday, and then 6 of the kids from their team came home with us, and we brought them home. We had like a lunch at our house, and they carried on playing football. And in the car, I'm driving, and the kids at the back, and they're super sweet little kids. They're like, call me uncle, you know, and they're like, and then I hear from the back, they're like, Uncle Zidane, Uncle Zidane. I'm like, what? And I look back, and this little dude, he goes, you look like Zinedine Zidane. Can I call you Zidane? And then the whole car is like nodding at me. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Call me that. So then now that's my nickname at the football club is
Uncle Zizou.
is Uncle Zidane, which is quite entertaining. Anyway.
Damn. Yeah, man, that's super dope. But yeah, like I said, I would really wish I had more time. But like, yeah, thank you for doing this. You're a hard man to get a hold
Cool,
of.
man. Sorry it took so long to get me on here.
Yeah. But like, I mean, still,
At least we got it done.
Yeah, you graced our platform, and I'm really thankful for you coming on. But yeah, this has been another knockout episode with myself, Tshuck, on Fighting Talk with Cairo Howarth.
Whatever.
Howard.
Zinedine Zidane, Cairo Zidane, whatever you want to call me. No problem.
Oh, that's fighting talk.